Greetings, everyone. It is Linda Talaferro, your girl from the T, the extra effort. And okay, I say it. And I don't know even know why I do this. I always say, I just need to just say it, twice a month. It's my favorite time of the month because it's the first or third Tuesday, and it's being Brown at Work Live. And you see, I have another absolutely phenomenal guest. I tell you, I've been blessed with these beautiful people that have been, introduced and connected to me. Phenomenal information, and it's about finance or finance, whichever way you say it. We're gonna talk about that tonight, and specifically that little black girl magic. And guys, I know you always message me and say, "What about us?" It's for you as well. The information we're going to share tonight. So let me dive in and introduce you to this phenomenal woman, Nishaea Richardson. A mom of one son is a multifaceted professional, blending expertise in administration support with a growing award winning business and financial coaching. Nishaea brings a unique perspective to her role as the Play Money Coach. Absolutely love that name. Aiming to empower women in fostering healthier relationships with their finances. Nishaea embarked on a journey to address her own financial challenges of maxed out credit cards, multiple personal loans. Okay, look, all right, we already connect. Could we already connect? Because I've been there, done that. No savings, bad credit, and ultimately transforming them into triumphs. While reflecting on her triumph, she saw the need to help other women do the same. Drawing from 3+ years of hand on experience, Nishaea has emerged as a formidable presence in the field. She has collaborated with dozens of clients, offering personalized coaching sessions, workshops, and presentations both virtually and in person. Her approach is informed by her certification as a Six Sigma Yellow Belt. Okay, wait a minute. I'm in the quality world. Six Sigma speaks to my heart, enabling her to epitomize money management processes and deliver tangible, efficient results for her client as well as advanced education through the Financial Coach Academy, a rigorous program equipping her with skills equivalent to those of an MBA in financial coaching. Her commitment to ongoing learning and growth underscores her dedication to providing top notch guidance on financial literacy, money management, and mindset. Nishaea serves on the board of Albany Land Trust and volunteers her time to her neighborhood association and other community organizations. Some of the organizations she currently is in partnership with are the Affordable Housing Partnership of the Capital Region Community Loan Fund, providing financial wellness to the clients to reduce the racial wealth gap and support small business owners to financial success. Nishaea, welcome to Being Brown at Work Live. I'm too excited about this. Too
Thank you.
excited.
That was
Oh,
a whole mouthful. I gotta shorten that a little bit.
Look, no. My guests that have the long bio, even when they send me the short one, I'm reading the long one because I'm giving you your flowers now. I want people to know, seriously. I mean, we need to know what expertise and level of expertise that exists in our community. Don't shorten that, girlfriend. I loved every inch of it. That's why I had to read every letter, every word. Welcome. I'm so excited, Nishae, to have you.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited that you invited me. When you reached out and asked, can we have this conversation? This is what I'm doing. I was like, absolutely, yes. Like, I'm there. So I'm really
Yes,
excited for this.
yes. So let's just dive right in, Michelle. You know, I love the play money coach, and we're gonna get to that later. But let's kind of just really, peel the onion back and get a little deep here. As I shared with you when we connected, I felt it was so important to talk about money. We don't much do that in our community. Hence, a lot of us, I know me, I can speak for me as a 63-year-old with a mom born in 1928. She didn't have much to offer to me as far as financial guidance and mindset. It was more of, pay the bills, get, day to day kind of thing. But we're here in 2025, and wherever you are in the age gap, From your perspective, Nishaea, especially since you coach clients and you've been out here in this area, this field, what would you share as to why this is so important to have this conversation and for the financial mindset shift to be a priority for us?
Yeah, I love to focus on the wellness side of it because
Mm,
so often we separate finances from our whole being and all parts of us, where it is so interconnected. And I know we could all relate to when the money is funny, we ain't feeling life. Like life is not very great. Like you stressed out, you can't sleep, you got an attitude, you don't want to talk to nobody.
yes, that attitude, girl. Yes, yes, yes. No time for conversation, chit chat. No, yeah, not happening. Yes,
Yeah,
true.
and that
Yeah,
added stress and worry that affects our health. You know what I mean? Now we're
right.
stressed out. We have high blood pressure, and we're going to the doctors, and we can't get that straight because our finances aren't right. Now we have to work extra hours and doing overtime.
Mm,
It is just a lot. And if we don't focus on that area in our wellness, it is going to affect every other area in our health. And I think that because we don't actually see how they're connected, sometimes we miss that. Also, there is so much uncertainty, especially right now. And if we don't have a strong financial foundation, it makes things 10 times worse because now we don't know, okay, if I get laid off, am I going to be able to make it through a month
yeah,
without not being able to pay my bills? If I have to take a lower paying job just until I can find something else. Am I going to be okay? Are my bills actually exceeding the money that I'm bringing
yeah,
in every month? So I love the foundational work because it's the tangible stuff, making sure you have the budget, but it's also the mindset and the discipline that comes along with
yes.
that. Because, like you shared, I was raised in a single. My mom was a single mom. It was me and my two other sisters, and she was the hardworking mama who made sure the bills were paid. But that was what it was. All we knew is pay the bills, and there was no other
Yep.
financial education. So I had to make all the mistakes because all I knew was pay the bills. However, you have to do it.
Exactly. Exactly, Nashaya. And I'm so glad you said that because what you opened with, because I will tell you, I've never even thought to connect financial stability with wellness.
Hmm.
But you're absolutely right. I mean, I remember years and years and years ago when I was divorced and having a toddler and just bought a house based on two incomes, and now it's only one income. And I mean, and I remember being totally stressed out, and that happens to me every live as my earpiece falls out. I remember being totally stressed out. I mean, literally, right? And not trying to figure out how do I go from day to day to day to day. So
Hmm.
I'm so glad you made that connection because I didn't back then.
Hmm.
And that's why it's so important to have this conversation. And I'm so glad you're a guest because I'm sure there's other people that are watching this. And as you said, unfortunately, given the situation we are right now in our country, more people than not are dealing with this decision. Do I go pay groceries? How do I get gas? Do I pay the lights? Or those types of things because they have been laid off. So clearly, that's part of the why for
Hmm.
this conversation and to bring it into priority. Is there anything else that you'd like to add, Nishaea, as to why people should even listen to this? Thinking, okay, let's just take what I just said. They're stressed out as it is, right? Why do I have? Should I make the time to listen to what Linda and Nishaea are going to be talking about, and then connect with them in 2 weeks to put some actions in place? What else would you offer to that why?
Yeah, I also think it's a long game, right? Like, we all just want to
Mm,
jump out and say, okay, maybe I wasn't that great with my finances last year, and this is the year that I'm doing it. That is going to take time to build up that discipline, build up that different behavior that comes along with that. And sometimes we are beating ourselves up because maybe where we are in life. So
yeah.
I'm 40 right now, right? And there's people that are my age who are like, I feel so behind, I have no savings, I'm not putting anything in
Yep.
my retirement, all the things. and they don't realize that they're probably 10 steps ahead of someone else who can't even make it through the month without missing a payment, right? So I
Right.
really want people to focus on the things that they are doing well and celebrate that, because that's going to propel them into where they really want to go faster. Um, and and why is that important? It's important because we have to look at the end goal. Do we want to be able to retire when we reach 65? Or is that something that we don't foresee because we haven't started? And if we can
Yeah.
start now, then okay, that's a great reason to start now. That's why we want to start making some changes now, because maybe we can make it possible if we're 40 and we're now looking at retirement at
Yes.
65. Or even if we're
Yeah.
younger, that's the perfect time to say, okay, let me not do what my mom did or my dad did,
Hmm.
and let me start,
Right.
you know, making some changes and thinking about this differently. And then also for those of us who have like children or younger people that we're mentoring or guiding, it's also that shift in generational wealth, the mindset and the
Oh,
skills that come along with that. Like if we're regularly talking about money at the dinner table or on the drive to wherever we're going, and that's normal conversation, that already shifts how many of us were brought up. Like my mom wasn't
yeah.
talking about money.
Right.
So if we're making that normal conversation, now it's not that taboo, uncomfortable conversation that most of us
Right.
have with other people about finances. No, we're regularly talking about, hey, what are you making? How much are you saving? How did you do that? Oh, so, I think it's
Yes.
important because then we can really change the narrative, the culture, everything around finances in our community.
Oh, I loved all that, Nishaea. All of what you just said. Because when you first started out about, look, it's not too late. You may have made some mistakes, so you're in it. Because we tend to compare ourselves. And you said something that I hear often. Oh, I'm behind where I should be, or I'm really late, or I should have been here. I should have been. We do a lot of that to ourselves. I hear it
Mhm.
all the time with my clients, and that's a mindset shift. Okay, those things happened, right? Those previous years. You're at this point now, and I've heard before, when you know better, you do better,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so that's why this conversation, I believe, is so relevant, so important to open ourselves up to say, okay, didn't know better back then. I know better now. How do I have a goal going forward? And then this last part you just said, absolutely taking the taboo away from the conversations around money and finances and making it a norm, because it is for others that are not in our culture and our ethnicity. It's like talking about coffee. What's your favorite?
Mhm.
I mean, you know what I mean? It is. It's like, hey, did you go? What's your favorite color? It's talking about money. Is as simple as that for them,
Yeah.
and hence the difference in those other communities and how they're able to bridge the gap. This is why I'm so excited about the connection with you and what you've brought to this type of conversation and in this space, because it's extremely rare. So, Nishaea, so we've laid a little bit of the why and taking a little bit of the um, look back. What would you say? I mean, what I loved about your bio is the vulnerability in your bio. The fact that you mentioned bad credit, the fact that you mentioned, being struggling paying bills. What would you say to those individuals who right now have a credit score of 400 or 500 or 300 or whatever, and that are paycheck to paycheck?
Mhm.
Is the conversation you and I are going to have the rest of tonight and even a couple of weeks from now, are they the people that could listen in? Can you talk a little bit to those individuals?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it. So yes, it can be different for all of us, but it's like pretty much the same across the board, right? So I will just speak to just briefly to my journey and when I was in that
Beautiful.
paycheck to paycheck, right?
Yes. Yes.
And it really was like I had just enough to pay the bills every single 2 weeks with $10 left over. And every week, every 2 weeks, I'm like, please, nothing unexpected happen because I literally only have $10 left over, which is how I ended up in, maxed out credit cards and personal loans,
Sure.
because it was like I have to get through, and if something unexpected comes up, what am I going to do? Because I have no other
Right.
income coming in. and I was already working overtime. The overtime is what
Mm.
got me to the $40,000, you know. So um, it took me to actually change jobs, which was difficult because I
Oh,
was at my employer for over a decade. So, you know, I was like, okay, I'm going to be here forever. And then when it was time for me to apply for a position for a promotion, it was like, well, you don't have a college degree. You have all the experience, but you don't have a college degree. So we're not going to promote
mm,
you. So I had to take my talents elsewhere so that I could make more money. And then even within that, I had to take on a second job because it just was not enough. And I think sometimes, you know, when we're talking about finances and we're telling people to save and pay off debt, they're in that position where they're like, I have no extra. How am I supposed to save and pay off
yes,
debt? And the reality
right.
sometimes is you have to figure out how to make more money. Because if we're getting to the space where, okay, all the bills are covered, but I'm breaking even at the end of the month, the only option is to make more. And I think sometimes it can be difficult for people because if they don't have the time to work an extra job or do a side gig and things like that, because they have kids and all the things, they're like, I don't know how that's possible. And then some people are like, I have to work more, but you know what? I sacrificed for 2 years doing full time Monday through Friday, and then I did an overnight shift Friday and Saturday. For 2 years, I did that, and that got me
Wow.
out of debt. That helped me build my savings. That got me some money for a down payment for my first home. So it was very
Wow.
stressful, but I had to do it so I could get on the other side of it. And then
Yeah.
also, you know, I got like a couple of promotions. They weren't huge promotions, but it was more money coming in, which then allowed me to, after those 2 years, to say, okay, I'm not making a lot of money, but at least I can let this second job go to where I don't have to
Yes.
work as much. But now I'm comfortable because I have a cushion and I don't have this debt that's kind of this added expense.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that before I move forward.
Yeah,
But
so I do want to just pause there a little bit because before you move forward, because I know some people that are listening to this podcast, whether you're catching it live with us on tonight or you're hearing a replay, you're thinking, okay, wait a minute, Linda. Last month you had Brandon on, and Brandon's talking about the wealth gap and trading time for money, which is what he was sharing. And he said, now you got Nishaea on, and you're telling it sounds the opposite. So let me just level set everyone. Brandon came on and he's talking about what you can do beyond. When Nishaea is giving you the foundation of how you get to the point of what Brandon shared. So then you no longer trade time for money. But we all know we have to get to that point. And even Brandon shared in his opening that he wasn't there originally. Right? I mean, he now owns, Gravy Wealth Management Company, but he didn't start there. So what I wanted to make sure my audience heard, because you guys know that I'm real and I'm not playing any games here. And the purpose of being Brown at Work is to give everybody tools and methodologies so that you are successful in your career, so that you're successful in life as Black and Brown women. And in particular, guys, I haven't forgot about you, Black and Brown people, but that's what's most important with being Brown at Work. So what Nishaea is sharing with you this month of July, is the foundational piece. So don't lose what Brandon talked about in June, but this is where you've got to start. If you're like me or Nishaea, you didn't start with that, six figures in the bank, that either your dad or your grandma or somebody gave you, or maybe seven figures. Because I know I shouldn't even, if I barely started with three, okay, let's be real, right? So seriously, you know what I mean? So let's just be real. And so I wanted to level set that, Nishaea. Just that's why I paused there. So wonderful. Yes, we may have to do a little bit of extra.
Mhm.
Okay, and that is, we have to assess where we are financially, and if it requires that extra, like Nishaea just shared her personal experience of a second job, you may have to do that for a time amount, a specific amount of time. Okay, and you were going to go ahead and move on, Nishaea. I want to let you go ahead.
Yeah, and before I move on, I want to touch on what you said about, some of us weren't given that six figure, whatever, settlement or could have been a life
Whatever.
insurance policy, all things. No.
Right. No. Right.
But
No.
what's important in that is, excuse me, even if we were given that, if we don't have the foundational stuff in place, it's going to be gone in 2 seconds. We won't know what to do with that money.
Nishaea, I'm so glad you said that because I'm gonna be careful what I say because somebody listening to it, they'd be like, "Oh, she talking about me," but because I know people personally who had that given to them, right? And then within 90 days or less,
Yep.
because they didn't have the foundation, it was gone.
Yep.
It was gone.
Yep.
Right? So you're absolutely correct. If we don't have that foundational awareness or knowledge, even if we had unfortunately lost a loved one and we had life insurance policy, or somebody left us whatever it is, right? Or we just happened, to be lucky and have rich whatever, and they said, okay, when you become 18, you get this. If you don't have the foundation, Nishea is absolutely correct. You'll turn left or right, and before you know it, it's gone.
Yeah.
So this conversation, it fits all those categories we just said. It's still prevalent and important, whether you're like Nishaea, you didn't have any of that, and parents did their best, but they just didn't have the knowledge or the wherewithal, or you were fortunate and you had all the benefits, but you didn't have the knowledge to know
Hmm.
how to, right,
Right.
handle it. Thank you for saying that, Nishaea, because that's so important. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So yeah, so and then when we kind of fast forward and let's say, okay, we're not
Yes,
in that paycheck to paycheck space, which is a lot of my clients, they're in that just getting six figures or they're that high five figures and they're like, "Ooh, I got this extra money, but I don't know what to do with it and I don't want to mess it up." And this is a great space to be in because now you have that play money, you have some disposable income, which now gives you more freedom. I say more financial breathing room. And it allows us to
hmm,
now make some decisions, not from that place where we're just barely making it or
right.
just getting through. But either way, it then allows us to really set a plan to say, okay, you know what, I don't have any savings, but you know what, I'm making this extra money, and I could easily save 500 or $1,000 every month. I'll just maybe slow down on some things, maybe not go on vacation this year or four times this year. Maybe I'll just go on vacation one time this year, but I'm really going to have some extra money so that I can build my savings. Or they could say, you know what, this debt is actually costing me a lot of money. I'm going to just really go hard for the next 6 months, and I'm going to take this and just pay off this credit card, pay off these two credit cards. So it
Right.
really just, it's really important that we try to make as much money as we can. But I also don't want people to think like that's the only way to get into a space
Yes.
where, you're confident about the things that we're doing with our money. But it's really just building up that discipline, the confidence, and the ability to say, like, okay, this is what I want to do. I don't want that to be my narrative anymore where I can't save, I don't have, you know what I mean? I want this to be my
Yes.
narrative, and then really start working towards that little by little. And, sometimes we have to start with $10 a week or $10 a month and work our way up
Yes.
to build that habit. But just know that it's nice to see the $10 in the savings account versus nothing. And then wondering, oh, if I get a flat tire, what's going
Oh,
to happen?
exactly, Nishaya. I'm so happy you said that. And we're going to start to close this session because I know, look, y'all listening to this, you're probably thinking, okay, I get it. She got me. Now what do I need to do? Because that's going to happen in 2 weeks. She's
Okay.
going to tell you the steps to do. But what you just said, I think is so important because a lot of times I think we believe, oh, I can't start until I have a couple of hundred to do or a couple 500. I remember talking to a friend of mine who actually sometimes I do personal yoga with her. And she mentioned that she recommended to a friend of hers to open up a small savings account at 4 or 5%. And that person said, oh, that's too small. And she said, but she was like, but you got to start somewhere. And, and so I just said, you know what? I'm curious. I went out and I tested it out. It's actually on PayPal. I tested it out and I just threw like $100 in there, whatever. Do you know now I got close to $1,000?
Yes.
And then you see what I'm saying? And I just wanted to say, okay, let me think it because do I pay attention to 4 and 5%? Yielding. I probably don't. And so let me see what that's about. I'm looking at something else. I looked at the account the other day. I was like, oh, there's $1,000 in there. You know what I'm saying? So what you said, I think, is so important because a lot of times we don't pay attention to that, or we think it's got to be more grandiose than it than it needs to be, right? We
Mhm.
can start small and end up big. Years ago, I used to take just $25 out of my pay and set it aside. I'm telling you that out of sight, out of mind is real,
Yeah.
especially if you can't go access it right away. And when you do go look at it, it'll blow your mind. Just like I told you, I think I opened this account, I don't know, 4 or 5, 6 months ago. It's $1,000. I didn't put much in there to begin with. And
Uh-huh.
I think every time I just put a little bit, just goes in automatic, out of sight, out of mind. And I've done that with several accounts that just when I go and look, I was like, oh, there's $5,000 in there. I don't need that. What am I going to do with that? Oh, do I let it sit? Do I trade? You know what I'm saying? So what you said, I think is so extremely important. Everyone, this is kind of the mindset shift that I was so excited when I met Nishaea, that I knew she was going to give you guys, so that when you come back in a couple of weeks and you've got your notepad, or you're using your phone or on your laptop, whatever you're doing, taking the notes in a couple of weeks of when she gives you the steps, you want to be working now in the next week, shifting that mindset,
Mhm.
because we can really get in our own way about this finance thing, thinking that, okay, I'm not making money like Nishaea is now or Linda is now, so this isn't for me. No, this is for you,
Mhm.
paycheck to paycheck you. This is for you. $5 extra you. You heard Shaya say she had $10 extra. Look, hers was double digits. Your girl here was single digits extra. So, I know what that's like, especially when I was divorced and had a little 2 year old. That little 2 year old, probably to this day, if you ask my daughter, she's like, I didn't know that was because I had to make sure that she was set, right? But I knew I had about $5, maybe, but
Mhm.
we made it to the next paycheck. This is for you as well. So
Yes.
please join us in a couple of weeks. Nishaea, before we end this call where we're laying the foundation, is there anything else you wanted to share to get our audience ready for when you come back in a couple of weeks?
Yeah, I'm just gonna, I'm not gonna say just, but I am excited for the next in 2 weeks because we can really talk about some tangible things that they can implement
Yes.
right away. Because I think, what happens is, people listen to us talk and they get all excited. And then when they log off, they're like, okay, I'm gonna go do that thing. And then it's like, but wait a minute, there was just so much. Where do I
Right.
start? So I'm
Right.
really excited because we can talk about what that looks like of just starting somewhere. And
Yes.
it does, like you said, it doesn't have to be this big thing. You don't have to save $5,000 in 2 months. Like, let's be realistic. Let's enjoy
Yes.
our money while we're also working towards the end goal, the short term and long term goal. But yeah, we'll talk about some tangible things that they can implement right away, just based on where they are and what's important to them. And they'll be able to take action, which is most important.
Oh, I'm so excited, Nishaea. And I so greatly appreciate you. And everyone, look, being Brown at Work Live, like I say all the time, I want to make sure that you are completely successful in your career. Every aspect of your career is fueling you, rewarding you, paying you back, whether it's moving up that those steps on that ladder, excuse me, whether it's making sure you have a psychologically safe environment for you to grow, whether you have the pivot because it's toxic, or in this particular situation, that you're setting yourself up financially for that wealth in the long term, for you really having full, complete wellness, which is why I love Nishaea that she connected it to wellness. So that's why this topic is so important. So if you're catching this on the replay, like she just said, I'm sure it was a lot. So you want to digest it, exhale, inhale, exhale, breathe a little bit, but come back in 2 weeks because you don't want to miss it. She's going to give you some actionable nuggets. But in the meantime, look, if some questions come up between now and when Nishaea and I get back together, you can find this beautiful woman on LinkedIn, DM her, and send her a message and say, hey, I saw that. I listened to you and Linda. I've got some questions. She'd be more than glad to connect and really kind of peel back the onion with you one on one to get you ready for the session in a couple of weeks.
Yes.
Nishaea, this was fabulous, which I knew it would be. I knew it would be. I'm so excited for 2 weeks from now. Thank you so much for tonight.
You're
Appreciate you.
welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
All right, everyone. Until next time.